Who doesn't like exploding things? I like exploding things in video games, obviously, and so playing Halo 3 ODST's Kizingo Boulevard always brings me a lot of joy. There may be nothing in it which elevates it much above the majority of the game's other missions, but regardless, it's a short, dependable blast of entertainment that offers some fiery tank action that is quite unlike other Scorpion sections in the series. Kizingo Boulevard unfolds 90 minutes after the drop into New Mombasa. Similar to the Rookie's search a little later on, ODST Mickey explores the city streets looking for his squad mates, and soon enough finds himself right in the thick of things.
Hey, where's the fight at?
Take a guess, genius.
Son of a gun!
You might have heard that famous phrase, give a man a rocket launcher and he can destroy a Wraith, give him a Scorpion tank and he can kill Wraiths for a lifetime, or at least I'm fairly certain that's how it goes. Bungie adheres to both sides of that philosophy. You start equipped with a rocket launcher carrying only 2 shots, so that you're able to turn around and remove the one which appears behind you in an instant. I'd wager many will make a beeline for the Scorpion and worry about the Wraith after, but starting with an explosive loadout means you're covered either way. If you save the rockets though, they might just come in handy later down the line too. Using the Scorpion is the most obvious way of getting things in order, but you can also hop on the side of a tank as well, although I wouldn't recommend it. Despite it being nigh on impossible to last more than a few seconds, even on lower difficulties due to you becoming a sitting duck, it's a novel idea in principle. It's an option which is quite clearly meant to make you feel like an ODST, to really put you in Mickey's shoes, but there's absolutely zero incentive to give it much of a go because of how quickly you're usually taken out, having no choice but to ride along across an area or two containing weaker, less aggressive enemies before being given your own Scorpion could have been a lot of fun. Whether you hop in the tank straight away and begin blasting, clear the area on foot, or emerge victorious using a combination of both, you'll eventually need to continue on through the city streets.
Good work, Trooper. Covenant's been rolling us back block by block. Every Marine in the city is heading for a rally point near the Naval Intelligence Building. You ought to come with us.
Sure, as long as I get to drive the tank.
The next stretch through to meeting Dutch and going it on foot again is terrific. There are 3 reasons why I love it so much. Firstly, because it's absolute bedlam, but controlled, intentional bedlam. There are 3 larger areas you'll need to clear, with each presenting a different challenge. Ground troops and a few turrets in a small space comprise the first course on this menu of mayhem. A decent enough challenge, but nothing insurmountable. You mostly just need half-decent aim. Next, there's a greater number of turrets and ghosts to deal with in a larger area, which sounds tougher, but wide open space means good movement can lead to the firefight ending swiftly. The last area is the best of both worlds. A smaller space opens up into a more expansive one, which means figuring out the best angle of approach is essential. It's essential because there are enemies all over the place, foot soldiers and wraiths on the ground, and banshees and phantoms in the air. Taking up the right positions will minimise damage taken, but you need to be able to prioritise targets as well, so as to not get overwhelmed. Across all 3, plenty of allies are regularly thrown into the mix too, giving it the gritty, street-fighting feeling I'd imagine Bungie was going for. The second reason I love this section is because it offers something unique. It's not the first Scorpion section set in a city or its outskirts. That honour goes to the bridge sequence at the start of Halo 2's Metropolis, but it is the longest and most varied of its kind. When you think about the trilogy's previous tank sections, my bet is your mind first conjures up images of Assault on the Control Room and its snowy surroundings, Delta Halo and lush green hills, the sand dunes of the Ark, or the Covenant's tundra. All of them happened in vast, mostly natural areas on a variety of Forerunner structures. Kizingo Boulevard is not depicting a hero's struggle under epic circumstances, but rather, as mentioned, brutal urban combat, and this is a tank section which reflects that. There's nothing else like it anywhere else in the series. A Scorpion or 2 extra are also provided at intervals, so you can swap your ride out for an undamaged model if needs be, but there's very little reason to use anything else during this section. You can, however, if you want. It's not something I'd recommend to first-timers. As mentioned, encounters are heavily balanced on the assumption you'll be tackling them in a tank, but it presents a good challenge if you fancy trying something different. Also, a quick tangent here, this is exactly the kind of section I think should have been included at the end of Exodus in Halo Reach. You spend the majority of that level working your way through New Alexandria's heights before arriving back on solid ground, and at that point a tank sequence like this one would have been the perfect fit. Instead, there is an uninspiring drive between anti-aircraft guns. I don't mind taking down the guns, it makes total sense for Noble 6 to have to do that after the fateful Hornet ride which precedes that part, but working your way through the city streets in a tank to get the job done I think would have fit a lot better tonally and aesthetically. The third reason why I love this section is that as mesmerising as the action on screen can be, it wouldn't be anything without the music accompanying it. The way the track Traffic Jam is used throughout Kizingo Boulevard is tremendous. It starts out slow and plodding, the auditory equivalent of the vehicle you're in. It then kicks into gear during the level's midpoint as events really get out of hand, after which it pauses briefly before returning in more frantic fashion for the on-foot encounter at the mission's end. Composers Marty O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore's work across the Halo trilogy, with tracks mutating and evolving from game to game, is outstanding, and I love seeing, or rather hearing, similar in ODST and later Reach, but contained within a single track. Speaking of the final on-foot section, as depressing as it may be, you've no choice but to leave your tank as you fend off Covenant and a Wraith during the closing set piece.
Those Covenant dropped in behind us. They must know this is our rally point.
Terrific.
Come on, we got ammo and weapons on the high ground. Move it, move it.
I've not got a whole lot to say about this one, except that I always find it surprisingly tricky. Covenant come at you from every which way, so you need to be nimble and keep on your toes to avoid getting flanked. There's lots of verticality and angles of approach which both you and your enemy can take advantage of, so being aware of your surroundings and using them appropriately to fight off incoming hordes is of the utmost importance. If you don't properly manage the crowds, you can very quickly find yourself in quite a lot of trouble, especially when playing on higher difficulties where the Covenant can cut you down at a moment's notice. Being forced to take down a single Wraith at the back of the arena also serves as a nice reminder that as an ODST, you are still much more vulnerable than the Spartan you'll have got used to playing as in the past. Indeed, even during this level, Wraiths might begin to seem like less of a threat as you shred them using a tank, so here you're taken down a peg or two. Firing off a charged plasma pistol shot and charging straight for it is the more high-octane way of dealing with the problem, but you can also use the rocket launcher you begun the level with, or pick up a new one hidden nearby, if you'd rather keep yourself out of harm's way. With the surrounding area at last cleared of the Wraith and any Covenant stragglers, Mickey and Dutch have a few moments to catch up as Kizingo Boulevard reaches its end, although as it turns out, their next mission is right in front of them.
You heard from Gunny?
No. Romeo neither.
Well, guess it's just you and me.
My vote, hold up, wait for backup.
Thank God. Does one of you know how to use explosives?
Your vote just got overruled.
Oh.
Like I always say, there are no bad missions in Halo 3 ODST, and while Kizingo Boulevard may be one I'm generally less excited about, it's hard not to have at least a semi-decent time blowing stuff up. The constant waves of enemies and allies being ferried in, the arenas which each provide a different challenge, and the close to mid-range Scorpion-based combat on city streets make it a chaotic, varied and unique affair, and the music which accompanies it is pretty awesome too. I'm not overly fond of the encounter at the end, I'd have preferred a little more tank time myself, and the missed opportunity with regards to riding shotgun is a shame, but neither are a big deal by any stretch of the imagination. Kizingo Boulevard is a frantic, disorderly, explosive mess, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Thanks for watching the video, boys, girls and Spartans. If you had a Scorpion-tacular time, do consider liking, subscribing and sharing your thoughts, and fingers crossed, we'll catch up again soon.